Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Woo, welcome
Let's go.
back, traders. How we doing? We have
I'll
an
wake up.
absolutely beautiful video for you guys today. Going over ticker symbol AMC, GameStop, and NIO. A little Monday market update for you guys and how the squeeziness of these stocks is getting. So we'll just go over real quick. AMC up 4.5%, 5% if you count the after hours, which we do. GME, just want to go over the earnings as well. Tomorrow, after market trading hours, up 2.04% and actually closed above $23, which is pretty big. And then NIO having a fan-freaking-tastic day, up 7%, and really, really outperforming the broader market. When you look at the index funds like S&P 500 and IWM, right? That is what's going to be so crucial for you guys when we look at these broader market moves, because you can see the VIX is up, which in case you guys are wondering, the VIX is the volatility index. And whenever the VIX is up, typically the sentiment is bearish, right? You can see whenever this thing goes up, you can overlay that with the S&P 500. And typically, guys, that does not mean good, right? You can see back in, if I go to 2021, right, or 2020, look at that COVID move. That is right when the pandemic started. The VIX is oftentimes not a good thing. So when you get into these situations, right, where the VIX is skyrocketing, oftentimes, English, right? Oftentimes what you see is the SPY or the S&P 500 see a little bit of a pukey, right? A little bit of a dumpy move. And so what you saw today on the charts for this market update for Monday, what you saw today was a battle. And you can see that on the chart, right? Look at the move today. You saw high volume close and a red overall close with a wick off of the 200-day EMA and a rejection, a smackdown of the 9-day EMA. That is a battle between the bulls and the bears on the chart today. So very fascinated to see that alongside with the Trump news, right? So Trump said Iran called, the U.S. didn't. That is interesting to see. But the bigger move here, aside from the memes, right? Aside from the memes, the bigger move here is that there are peace negotiations in progress. And depending on who you want to believe, right? You don't have to believe Trump. You don't have to believe Iran. The fact is that there are peace talks. And I think that's a very, very good sign for the recovery of these indices. But that's pretty much my update on SPY. We're going to get into AMC, GameStop, and NIO here in a second. But before you do, guys, I would freaking appreciate it so much if you guys slap the like button and hit the subscribe button. It goes a long way for the algorithm to help find this channel, guys. All that aside, let's get back into the video. And we're going to start with the most prevalent stock here, and I will leave a thumbnail below for all of these, but the most prevalent stock is GME because you have earnings tomorrow, and there is a high likelihood, in my opinion, not financial advice, that you beat said earnings. The earnings sitting right around 31 cents per share estimate, which is huge, right? Typically, this quarter is one of the most profitable quarters, and you do have some things to look forward to. You had the Nintendo Switch 2 sales, which were, I believe, a record for console sales at launch. So I do expect a beat on earnings, which would be huge for the stock's momentum here. As you can see, you have gone from the bottom band back in November of 2025. Then you made a little bit of a double bottom, rallied outside of this macro falling wedge. And now, guys, you have successfully gotten above the midband and retested it. And we called this out Sunday night, saying that I do expect a green open potentially here if you're going to see this thing and this rally continue. And so what you're seeing here is a little bit of that rally, right? You're green, you're back above the 200-day EMA, and you're holding that mid band. That's huge, right? Because as you can see here, the weekly Bollinger Bands are beginning to bulge. And when these bands bulge, guys, volatility is on the horizon. You know it, right? So that's what gets me very excited for GameStop. You could argue here, right, that this was a falling wedge, a breakout, and then some kind of pennant before you go higher. And if that was the case, right, you would draw something a little bit like this. And then you would take your resistance trend line, wherever you want to draw it, right? We'll draw it like that. Whoops. And then let's say you break that for earnings. Now that takes you directly into your $31 price target that we had there, which is kind of fascinating, right? You look at the gap fills that you have in the stock. You have one sitting at 28 and you do have one sitting at 30. So that's what I'm watching for on GME to the upside, but there are some targets to watch for the downside, right? You did fail to break out of this golden cross. That's a big thing. That is a big, big thing. So the fact that you failed to break that means there is a potential downswing here to the gap fills below. Currently sitting at 21.93 and 21.25, but that's old news, right? So what we're watching here is this inside bar, right? Maybe you see a doji tomorrow. I doubt it. I think whatever move is going to be made is going to be decisive tomorrow. So watch for that for earnings. You did have a triple cross down here, right? The 9-day slice through the 200 and the 50. So typically a bad move here for us to retest and reject. So we'll have to watch and see for GME. The thing I do know is the indices actually look really, really good. So we're going to take that segue into the S&P 500 and into IWM, because IWM is the meme basket for these stocks, right? All three. IWM covers GME, AMC, and NIO. So this is the stock that I like to compare to when I talk game on these stocks, right? Risk on assets. And when you look at where you are currently, although it sucks that we failed to hold this channel and this wedge formation, when you zoom out, traders, there's a really good channel, Cantonese Cat, that I recommend you guys checking out. This cat, literally, pun intended, talks about IWM and the squeeziness of this indice. When you zoom out, guys, this thing looks freaking phenomenal. And it gives me some confidence as a bull that this market is going to go higher. Because when you look at this U-shaped cup accumulative formation, and then you look at the V-shaped recovery, the retest of this flat top previous all-time high, it gives me confidence that if you find a bounce here, guys, you are going to the freaking moon. So that gets me absolutely jacked. On the daily time frame, you had a little bit of a doji candle here and a failure to close above the 9-day EMA after being up almost 4% at one point. Now, it was still a great day. You still closed up 2%, which is good for the overall market, and you had higher volume. That's what we call a bullish reaction. Now, you need to see some follow through tomorrow and hopefully some good news from President Trump. But a good sign is you're starting to get that MACD on the daily time frame curl back up, which shows that bullish momentum is hopefully. Excuse me, had some sparkling water. That's my guilty pleasure. Hopefully, some bullish momentum step back into the stock here and give you a relief bounce outside of this ugly downside formation. And hopefully give us some clarity on what the next move is going to be. On the monthly time frame, I think this will give you guys a really good perspective. And I haven't covered this in a while because, of course, we're always talking about other things. But I want to cover this now for you guys because this does a freaking great job of outlining what I expect to happen next. You can look at the macro here and you can see just a chart. But what I want you guys to look at is the flat top resistance. Look at how IWM every single time freaking sells off like crazy, reestablishes a range, retests significant support, and then blasts off, right? It happened back in 2008. It even happened back in the dot-com bubble, right? You had a falling broadening wedge here with a flat top resistance. You broke from that, retested significant support, and then blasted off. It happened in 2015, right? V-shaped recovery. You have a minor retest there, and then you blast off to all-time highs. And then you had it in freaking COVID, guys. And this one was legendary. We all know what happened. This run-up was one that we have never seen before with the amount of Fed printing. And when you see this, right, V-shaped recovery, you really did not have your recovery bounce here, but you did break the flat top resistance, and you freaking skyrocketed to all-time highs. And AMC, Gamestop, NIO, crypto, right, all of these risk-on assets followed with it. So when I'm watching this exact same thing happen, guys, you had a significant U-shaped accumulation, a sell-off recovery, and then now you have your retest. And typically, guys, what will happen is you'll make that all-time high, you'll retest that previous all-time high, and then you will freaking skyrocket. So when everyone sees the Fear and Greed Index in the dumps, and everyone on Twitter is in the dumps, that is the time where I am genuinely so excited and jacked for the bright future that is ahead of us, in my opinion, right? Not financial advice. I do truthfully believe the best is yet to come, and it will blindside a lot of people, right? And if I'm wrong, oh well, right? I'm wrong, but this is my belief and my conviction that I've held since back here, right? Since July, I've been saying this. So beyond that, we will start to talk about AMC. I believe we covered. Yep, we covered S&P 500, closed kind of pincered between the two EMAs. IWM had a stronger close in the daily time frame, right? But still between the two EMAs. Let's close that out and let's get open AMC, baby. Okay, so you had a green day, right? Hallelujah. You had a green day, but you still failed to close above the 9-day EMA. Now that is huge, guys, when you look at the overall trajectory and this downside channel. You've failed to hold above the 9-day EMA every single time. That has led to more selling pressure. So until you see a large candle close on volume in a bullish manner, right? This is a bullish spinning top, which just means the continuation of trend. Typically, it's not really either or. It's kind of a neutral candle. So I do expect this thing to either continue up if the IWM, the broader market, goes up, or if the sellers step back in from this 9-day EMA for it to continue down. But there is one glimmer of hope, right? This is your overall trend line that you got to break. You did wick outside of it today. Now, if this begins to flatline, then there is hope for AMC that you will find a break from this trend line, right? Because look at how tight you are now. You are freaking squeezed within this little gap of space. So it's either you make another all-time low or you break out. I'm in the belief that AMC is at significant support here at $1, and people know the deep value that's in this play. So I do believe you're going to see a little bit of a relief bounce, even if it's to the 9-day EMA and the weekly at 120. But even that, guys, gives me actual conviction, and I will tell you why, right? This stock has been so oversold at this period in time that any little blip up, given the short interest, right? You go down and you look for the short interest. I guess it's not going to tell me, and that's okay. We'll refresh. That's okay. Short interest on AMC, in case you guys are wondering, right around 25%. That's astronomically high. In fact, that's, in my opinion, malicious, right? So when you see you're this oversold, and we could pull up the RSI, AMC. On the freaking weekly, guys, you are so oversold to the point where you're actually at COVID levels, but you're beginning to find a bounce. Look at that. And now you have the RSI weekly band trending down, while the RSI finds a little bit of a bounce and some strength here. So if you can see that intersect, that will be your first intersection, or whatever you want to call that word. That'll be your first cross of that since back here. And you had a 60% move back in April of 2025. When you crossed this, retested it, and you blasted off. That's what I'm watching for on the bottom of your screen for this RSI band. So for AMC, I am still bullish in the short term. I think you will see a relief rally here and the weekly MACD cross for the first time since, you guessed it, April of 2025, when you also saw that markup. So I'm saying all of this because when a stock is oversold and short sold to 25%, right, and you have a lot of momentum indicators begin to swing up, this is where squeezes are potential, right? This is where that potential potentially lies. So I'm excited at AMC from these levels, although not excited about the fundamentals, right? There's a lot of work to do there. But in terms of a short-term play, a stock squeeze play, I think AMC actually has a lot of opportunity here that no one is really talking about. So that's kind of my due diligence on AMC. I think there's a lot of moving puzzle pieces here that, if they come together, can come together very beautifully. So AMC on the quarterly chart, we are waiting for that quarterly MACD flip, which in my opinion will Thanos snap a lot of shorts and hopefully bring you back up to these levels at $10, which was your previous all-time low, a very, very important level to watch. As last time you saw a 800% rally, which is this green Hulk you-know-what candle, or boom boom candle as it's referred to for AMC. Last thing we're going to cover, but also one of the most important things we're going to cover today is NIO stock. Now, NIO family, if you guys have made it this far, I know I have a timestamp for you, but I love and appreciate each and every single one of you guys. You guys have been subscribing, liking, and viewing at an alarming rate that shows me that there is a audience for this stock, and whatever need that I could fill, I'm going to do it, because NIO stock makes some pretty interesting moves each and every single day. And just today, right, you had a low of 560, but you bounced off of it and you ran 7%. That is huge for the overall bullishness of this play, as we know 560 is such an important level. And to see you show strength at 560 is tremendous, right? Not only are you rejecting this sell-off because you had a bearish engulfing yesterday, but you are also bouncing off critical support. And in doing so, right, you allow the 50-day EMA more room to run. And once this thing crosses the 200-day EMA, traders, which is this right here on the bottom of your screen, once that occurs, that'll be the first golden cross you've had since August of 2025 when you ran this thing up, right? You ran like freaking crazy. You brought lemon pepper tendies, whatever you want to call it, to the stock, up 88%. And the previous time before that, guys, traders, was this run up right here. So the golden cross, I don't have to tell you again, is one of the most watched technical patterns in the entire stock market. So the fact that you're about to get this on NIO is so bullish. I cannot pound my fist on the table enough for you guys to subscribe, because this thing is about to do the dirty. And just yesterday, although it was a bullish engulfing, we talked about the fact that you retested your previous high, right? Just on the local time frame of, what was that? 540. What was the low here? Your low here was 540. So you're still, even during the bearish sell-offs, doing something bullish. That was a retest of your previous high during a run-up. So I have no reason to be worried here on NIO stock. In fact, I am bullish, because the more I zoom out on the daily, the more I hope you guys see the story on the chart that it is telling you, which is a cup head and then a more micro cup here, which brings you to that macro target of $18 hairs, right? $18 or 16, depending on where you want to put this horizontal trend. 16 is going to be massive because it was a high volume rejection here on the daily time frame. as well as support here during this chop. So that's what I'm watching for on NIO stock. It's going to matter whether or not you can get back above 560 on the weekly and whether or not you can get a weekly close above that stubborn resistance at 771, traders. On the weekly time frame, not much has changed, right? You did get that cross through that we were talking about of the 9 above the 50, which shows bullish momentum is stepping in on the stock. And then on the monthly time frame, you're starting to see volume ramp back up, baby. Come on. Start to see volume ramp back up here, showing the exhaustion from sellers coming to an end, and the buyers are starting to step in here. And if you can finish the month in a very, very meaningful way, this will spell to me a breakout of this overall local trend that you've been in for the last 2 freaking years. And to everyone who is bearish, everyone who is doubting NIO stock, I just want to say I'm going to continue to cover the stock because it is going to continue to prove the bears wrong, in my opinion. Showing some profitability. I do believe that you will get this quarterly MACD flip on NIO and this quarterly hammer candle close on NIO, which would, in my belief, bring the first quarterly cross on your MACD since 2020, leading me to believe not just I don't mean to be a moon boy, right? But this thing has so much freaking potential. I just want to make sure you guys are aware of what is happening on the charts, why I believe these things, what indicators I'm using, so that we can, as a retail community, grow, right? But that's all I got for today. So make sure to slap the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share it with everyone you know. God bless each and every single one of you guys. And remember, guys, the best is yet to come. Let's go. Come on.